The attacks began at dawn across 37 different star systems simultaneously. On the mining world of Tethys Prime, Council workers arrived at their facility to find it a smoking ruin. Human ships had struck in the night, destroying refineries and processing plants worth billions. They left behind a message burned into the ground in letters a kilometer high. Remember Earth. At a military academy on Vexo 7, students woke to find their instructors gone, their computers wiped and their weapons storage empty. Human operatives had infiltrated during the night, taking everything of value and leaving chaos behind. No one had been killed, but the humiliation was complete. A council diplomat's personal ship disappeared between stars. When it reappeared a day later, the diplomat was unharmed, but every classified document in his possession was gone. Earth's intelligence network had copied everything. They knew secrets that would topple governments. The pattern repeated across council space. Not random violence, but surgical strikes designed to cripple, humiliate, and terrify. The council couldn't protect their own territory. They couldn't even protect themselves. Admiral Yunji coordinated the campaign from her ship, Eternal Reckoning. On her screens, reports flooded in from human fleets scattered across the galaxy. Every mission successful. 0 casualties. The council's defenses were like tissue paper. They relied on fear for so long, she said to her officers. They forgot that fear only works if you can back it up. They can't. Commander Taeyang led one of the strike fleets personally. His target was a council weapons depot orbiting a gas giant. Intelligence said it held enough firepower to arm 1,000 ships. He meant to make sure the council never used those weapons. His fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel, perfectly positioned. The depot's defenders barely had time to raise shields before human railguns opened fire. The battle lasted 17 minutes. The depot became a cloud of debris and frozen atmosphere, but Taeyang didn't just destroy. He also recorded. Every battle was broadcast across council space. Every victory was shown to billions of aliens who had believed the council was invincible. The propaganda war was as important as the shooting war. Dr. Seojun's team took the psychological warfare further. They hacked into council communication networks and replaced official broadcasts with their own. They showed footage of the Grand Armada's retreat. They played recordings of Vexthor's deal with the Vraxians. They exposed every lie, every betrayal, every corrupt deal the council had made. The effect was devastating. Member species began questioning their government. Protests erupted on council worlds. 3 minor species formally withdrew from the council, declaring neutrality. The unity that had held 47 civilizations together for centuries began to crack. On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Vexthor watched his empire crumble. Every day brought new disasters. Every night brought more defeats. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, striking without warning and disappearing like ghosts. "We need to negotiate," Sethrak said. The reptilian scales had lost their luster. He looked old now, frightened. Before there's nothing left to negotiate with. Negotiate? Vexthor's crystalline body flared red. With primitives? Never. They're not primitives anymore. They've proven that. A messenger arrived, trembling. "Chancellor, we've lost contact with our fleet in the Outer Rim. All 18 ships. Gone." Vexthor slumped in his seat. In 3 weeks, the council had lost more ships than in the previous century. Their economy was in chaos. Their military was demoralized. And the humans showed no signs of stopping. But even as military defeats mounted, Ambassador Mireille was conducting a different kind of war. She reached out secretly to moderate council members, species who had never supported Vexthor's betrayal of Earth. She offered them something simple, a choice. "Join us in building something better," she told them. "Or go down with the old order." The Keltharian representative met her in secret on a neutral station. He was a being made of living crystal, similar to Vexthor but smaller, more delicate. "What you're doing is destroying everything we built," he said. "No," Mireille corrected. "We're destroying what was built on lies and corruption." The council sold out member species to save themselves. They let 2 million humans die without batting an eye. "What makes you think they wouldn't do the same to your people?" The Keltharian was silent for a long moment. "What would you have us do?" "When the time comes, stand with us. Help us build a new alliance, one based on actual equality, not just pretty words." Similar conversations happened across council space. Mireille's diplomatic team worked tirelessly, offering carrots where the military offered sticks. Some species refused, loyal to the Council until the end, but others listened. Others remembered their own grievances, their own times when the Council had failed them. The Council's unity continued to fracture. After 4 weeks of defeats, human fleets converged on Nexus Prime itself. They didn't attack the planet. That would have killed billions of civilians. Instead, they formed a blockade. Nothing in, nothing out. The Council's government was trapped in its own capital. Taeyang commanded the blockade from Bastion 2, a mobile fortress that had traveled from the Sol system. He watched Council ships try to break through and fail. His fleet had numerical superiority now. More importantly, they had better tactics, better training, and a burning need to see this through. "We can hold this position indefinitely," his tactical officer reported. "They can't break out." Inside Nexus Prime, panic spread. Food supplies would last months, but the psychological impact was immediate. The Council, masters of the galaxy, were prisoners in their own home. Ships that tried to leave were turned back. Calls for help went unanswered because no one dared challenge the human fleet. Vexthor paced his chambers, his crystalline body flickering between colors. He had one card left to play. One weapon that could end this war instantly and ensure the Council's survival. He summoned his inner circle. "Activate the Stellar Cascade." Sethrak's eyes widened. "Chancellor, no. That weapon is forbidden. It was built as a deterrent, never to be used. These are exceptional circumstances." The Stellar Cascade was a weapon from an older, darker time. It could ignite a star into a supernova, destroying entire solar systems. The Council had built it centuries ago, then locked it away. The very existence of such a weapon was supposed to prevent wars, not start them. Now Vexthor meant to use it. And his target was Earth's sun. He sent a message to the blockading fleet. Taeyang received it in his command center and played it for his officers. Vexthor's crystalline face filled the screen. "Commander Taeyang, Admiral Yunji, Ambassador Mirai. You have 48 hours to withdraw all human forces from Council space and surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, I will activate the Stellar Cascade targeting your sun. Earth will burn. Everyone you love will die. The choice is yours." The transmission ended. Taeyang's bridge was silent. Then someone whispered, "Can he actually do that?" "Check with Seojin," Yunji ordered. Minutes later, Dr. Seojin's voice came through. "The Stellar Cascade exists. We found references to it in the captured data. It can do what he claims, and can we stop it?" Taeyang asked, a pause. "Maybe. The weapon requires 17 minutes of uninterrupted charging before firing. If we can destroy it during that window, Earth survives. And if we can't, then everything we're fighting for dies." Taeyang looked at his officers. Saw the fear in their eyes, saw the determination too. They had come so far, lost so much. The Council had forced them into this war, had made them into warriors and killers. Now the Council was threatening to murder their entire species. "Get me Captain Deho," Taeyang ordered. "Tell him we need a team for an impossible mission." In the Sol system, 5 billion people went about their lives, unaware that their existence hung by a thread, unaware that their survival depended on a handful of soldiers willing to die to save them. The countdown had begun. Captain Deho stood in the briefing room aboard Bastion 2, looking at the holographic display of Nexus Prime. Around him, 50 soldiers waited in silence. They were the best Earth had. Special Forces operators who had survived countless missions. But this one was different. This one was suicide. "The Stellar Cascade is here," Commander Taeyang said, pointing to a massive complex beneath the planet's surface. "It's protected by energy shields, automated defenses, and an entire battalion of Council security forces. Getting in will be nearly impossible. Getting out will be actually impossible." One of the soldiers, a young woman named Yunha, spoke up. "Sir, are you saying we won't survive this?" Taeyang met her eyes. "I'm saying your chances of survival are less than 3%. I'm saying this is a one-way mission. I'm saying that if you volunteer, you're giving your life to save Earth." Silence filled the room. Then Deho stepped forward. "I'm going." One by one, the others followed. All 50. They knew what this meant. They had families back on Earth, dreams, futures. But they also remembered the 2 million who died in the colonies. They remembered why this war started. "Then God be with you," Taeyang said quietly. Admiral Yunji joined them as they prepared their equipment. "We'll do everything we can to support you. But once you're inside, you'll be on your own. We know, Deho said. He checked his weapon one last time. Just make sure this counts for something. The infiltration began at midnight Nexus Prime Time. A human ship, painted to look like a council vessel, approached the planet. Inside, Deho's team waited in the cargo bay, packed into drop pods. They had practiced this 100 times in simulation. Now they would do it for real. The ship entered orbit. Council traffic control barely noticed it among the dozens of other vessels. At exactly the right moment, the drop pods launched. They fell through the atmosphere like meteors, their heat shields glowing red. Anti-air defenses tracked them, but dismissed them as debris from the blockade. The pods crashed into the ground 5 kilometers from the Stellar Cascade facility. The soldiers emerged, weapons ready, and began their approach through the darkness. Ambassador Mirai watched from the command center, her heart pounding. She had argued against this plan, had begged for another way, but there was no other way. Either Deho succeeded, or Earth died. All teams report ready. Deho's voice crackled over the communication link. You have 17 minutes from when they activate the weapon, Dr. Seojin reminded him. Not a second more. Understood. Inside the council chambers, Chancellor Vexthor gave the order. Activate the Stellar Cascade. Target Sol System, Earth's sun. Deep beneath Nexus Prime, ancient machinery came to life. The weapon began charging, drawing power from the planet's core. Energy readings spiked. Across the galaxy, human sensors detected the activation. The countdown began. 17 minutes until Earth died. Deho's team reached the facility's outer perimeter. Guards patrolled the walls, but they were ceremonial more than functional. The council had grown so arrogant they never expected a ground assault on their capital. Breaching charges now, Deho ordered. Explosions ripped through the walls. The team poured through, weapons firing. Council security forces responded, but they were slow, confused. These guards had never seen real combat. They fell quickly, but the automated defenses were another matter. Turrets emerged from the walls, their targeting systems fast and precise. Soldiers began falling. Yuna took a shot to the shoulder but kept moving. A man named Minho fell, his chest torn open by plasma fire. Keep moving, Deho shouted. We don't have time. They fought their way down through level after level. The facility was a maze of corridors and checkpoints. More soldiers fell. The team that started with 50 was down to 30, then 20, 12 minutes remaining. They reached the main chamber. The Stellar Cascade towered above them, a construct of impossible geometry that hurt to look at. Energy crackled around it, building toward the critical threshold. Council technicians fled at the sight of human soldiers, but Chancellor Vexthor was there. The crystalline being stood before the weapon, flanked by his personal guard. You're too late, he said. Even if you destroy this weapon, your son is already doomed. Then I'll die making sure you die first, Deho replied. The firefight was brutal. Vexthor's guards were elite soldiers, not like the facility security. They knew how to fight. More humans fell, but they pushed forward, driven by desperation and fury. Deho took a shot to the leg, then another to the abdomen. He fell to his knees but kept firing. Around him, his team was dying. Yuna collapsed. A soldier named Jinho fell protecting his friend. 8 minutes remaining. Only 5 soldiers remained. They reached the weapons control core. One of them, a tech specialist named Nari who had survived the earlier boarding mission, began planting charges. Her hands shook as she worked. Behind her, the others held off a wave of reinforcements. How long? Deho gasped. Blood poured from his wounds. 30 seconds to arm, then we need to get clear. There is no getting clear. Just do it. Vexthor appeared in the doorway, his crystalline body glowing with rage. He raised a weapon, aiming at Nari. Deho threw himself forward, taking the shot meant for her. It tore through his chest. He crashed to the ground, unable to move. Charges set, Nari said, her voice breaking. She looked at Deho. Captain, go, he whispered. Tell Earth. Tell them we didn't fail. But there was nowhere to go. The explosion would kill everyone in the chamber. Nari stayed beside Deho, holding his hand. The remaining soldiers formed a circle around them, weapons pointed outward, making their last stand. 5 minutes remaining. Vexthor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You're all dying for nothing. Even if you destroy the weapon, you won't stop the chain reaction. Your sun will still burn. Then we'll see each other in hell, Deho said. Nari pressed the detonator. The explosion was massive. It tore through the facility's foundations, collapsing levels above and below. The stellar cascade shattered, its exotic matter containment failing. The resulting burst of energy vaporized everything within a kilometer. Chancellor Vexthor, Deho and his team, the entire complex, all gone in an instant. In the command center on Bastion 2, screens showed the explosion. Then they showed something else. The energy readings from Earth's sun remained stable, normal. The chain reaction Vexthor had described was a bluff, a final attempt to break human will. The weapon was destroyed. Earth was saved, but the cost. Taeyang closed his eyes. 50 of his best soldiers, dead. Captain Deho, who had saved his life a dozen times, dead. All of them gone. Sir, an officer said quietly, the council is signaling. They want to surrender. With Vexthor dead and their ultimate weapon destroyed, the remaining council leadership had no fight left. They agreed to every demand. The council would dissolve. A new galactic union would form, with Earth as a founding member with equal voice and veto power. Reparations would be paid for the lost colonies, and Earth would retain the military forces it had built. The war was over. Humanity had won. But standing at the memorial service a week later, Taeyang didn't feel victorious. He looked at the names of the fallen. 2 million colonists, 50 soldiers, countless others who had given everything. Ambassador Miri stood beside him. Was it worth it? She asked. I don't know, Taeyang admitted. I just know it was necessary. Across the galaxy, the first session of the new Galactic Union convened. Mirai addressed the gathered species. Her words were broadcast to every world, every ship, every being who could receive them. We came to you asking for compassion, she said. We received contempt. We came seeking allies and found betrayal. You taught us that mercy is weakness in this galaxy. You taught us that asking for help brings only mockery. We learned those lessons well. She paused, looking at the assembled representatives. Some looked ashamed. Others looked afraid. All of them looked at humanity differently now. But we also learned something you forgot. We learned that even the weakest can become strong if pushed hard enough. We learned that underestimating your enemy is the fastest way to lose. And we learned that humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our technology. It's our refusal to give up no matter the odds. Admiral Yunji, Dr. Seojin, and Commander Taeyang stood behind her, the architects of Earth revenge, the builders of humanity's new place in the galaxy. This union will be different from the Council, Mirai continued. It will be based on actual equality, not empty words. It will protect all member species, not sacrifice some to save others. And it will remember what happens when civilizations forget that even the smallest among them deserves respect. The session ended. Species that had once mocked Earth now sought its friendship. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it. Years passed. Earth's colonies rebuilt. The scars of war slowly healed. But the memory remained. On every human world, monuments stood to honor those who fell. And in the hearts of every human, a simple truth was carved. Never again would they trust others to protect them. Never again would they be weak. On a colony world at the edge of known space, children played beneath a monument bearing names of the fallen. At the base, an inscription read in both human and alien languages. The Grand Assembly Hall stretched before them like a cathedral of glass and starlight. Commander Taeyang stood beside Ambassador Mirai, both humans dwarfed by the massive chamber that could hold thousands. Above them, 47 alien species sat in their designated seats, looking down at the two representatives from Earth with expressions ranging from boredom to outright contempt. Taeyang clenched his fists inside his uniform pockets. They had been waiting for 3 hours to speak. 3 hours while the Council discussed trade routes and mining rights. 3 hours while his people died in the Outer Rim colonies. Finally, Chancellor Vexthor raised one of his crystalline appendages. The towering being sparkled under the chamber lights, his body made of living diamond that reflected colors humans had no names for. His voice boomed through the hall without need for speakers. The humans may now present their petition. Mirai stepped forward. She had practiced this speech 100 times on the journey to Nexus Prime. Her voice was steady, professional, despite the fear gnawing at her chest. Honored council members, Earth comes before you seeking aid. Our colonies in the Outer Rim are under attack by the Vraxian swarm. We have lost contact with 2 settlements already. Intelligence suggests the Vraxians are moving toward our largest colony, New Sol, where over 800,000 civilians reside. We request military assistance under the Mutual Defense Treaty that all council members signed. Silence filled the chamber. Then, something unexpected happened. Laughter. It started with the Krolith representative, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish made of metal. Others joined in. The sound echoed through the hall, cruel and mocking. Taeyang felt rage building in his chest, but Mirai touched his arm gently. "Stay calm," the gesture said. Chancellor Vexathor raised his appendage again and the laughter stopped. "The council has reviewed your situation. Your request is denied." "Denied?" Mirai's voice cracked slightly. "But the treaty—" "The treaty applies to unprovoked attacks," Vexthor interrupted. "Our investigation shows that Earth's aggressive expansion into the Outer Rim destabilized the region. You provoked the Vraxians by settling too close to their territory. This is a human problem, not a council problem." Taeyang stepped forward now, unable to contain himself. "That's a lie. The Vraxians attacked without warning. We followed all settlement protocols. We registered our colonies with the council. We did everything by your rules." Another council member spoke, a reptilian creature named Sethrak. "Perhaps you should have considered the consequences before playing colonizer, Commander. Earth has been part of this council for only 15 years. You are children playing with weapons you barely understand. Did you really think you could expand across the galaxy without consequences? We're dying out there," Taeyang shouted. "Families, children, people who just wanted a new life. They're being slaughtered." Vexthor's crystalline face remained expressionless. "Then perhaps you should evacuate them. We don't have enough ships. That's why we need your help." The Chancellor stood to his full height, nearly 12 feet tall. "Let me be clear, Commander. The Council will not risk its resources or its ships for Earth's mistakes." "You are dismissed," Mirai found her voice again. "Please, we're begging you. These are innocent lives. The decision is final." As they turned to leave, another council member called out. It was Vexthor again, and there was something almost pleased in his crystalline voice. "Oh, and Commander, Ambassador, you might as well know. The Council has reached an agreement with the Vraxian swarm. They will cease all hostile actions against Council space. In exchange, we have granted them permission to expand into the territories they currently occupy." The words hit Taeyang like a physical blow. You made a deal with them? You're letting them kill our people?" "We're protecting 47 civilizations, Commander. Sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good. Better your small colonies than the countless billions who live under Council protection. Earth will serve as a buffer zone. Consider it your contribution to galactic peace." Taeyang lunged forward, but Mirai grabbed him. Security drones descended from the ceiling, their weapons charging. The message was clear. "Leave now or be removed." They left. The journey back to Earth took 6 days. 6 days of silence and growing horror as reports came in. New Sol fell on the 3rd day. The Vraxians showed no mercy. They consumed everything, turning the colony into an organic hellscape. 800,000 people died screaming. By the time they reached Earth, 2 more colonies had fallen. The death toll exceeded 2 million. Among the dead were Taeyang's sister Jiwoo, her husband, and their 3 children. They had moved to New Sol just 2 years ago, hoping for a fresh start. Mirai's husband Hyunwoo had been there too, working as a doctor. He died trying to evacuate patients from a hospital. Earth's leadership convened in Geneva within hours of their arrival. The council chamber, deep beneath the United Nations complex, filled with grim-faced men and women. President Hana spoke first, her voice heavy with grief. "We all know what happened. We all know what the council did. The question now is simple. What do we do about it?" Admiral Yunji, head of Earth's Black Operations, stood. She was a small woman with steel in her eyes. "We make them pay. Every single one of them. They have thousands of ships," someone argued. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. We can't fight them directly." Dr. Seojin, Earth's lead weapons scientist, adjusted his glasses. "Not yet. But give me time and resources and I'll change that equation." Taeyang stood slowly. Everyone in the room knew his loss. Everyone knew his rage. The council thought we would beg. They thought we would accept our place as the galaxy's weakest member. They thought wrong. Mirai nodded. They see us as primitives, as children. They don't know what humans are capable of when pushed to the edge. President Hana looked around the room. I need to know. Are we in agreement? This won't be a small operation. This will change everything. If we do this, there's no going back. We'll either win or we'll cease to exist. Every hand in the room went up. Then it's decided, Hana said quietly. Operation Reckoning is approved. We're going dark. As of this moment, Earth is at war with the Galactic Council. May God forgive us for what we're about to do. The lights in the chamber dimmed. On screens around the room, orders began flowing to military installations across the solar system. Shipyards ramped up production. Research facilities received unlimited funding. Special forces units mobilized. And in the darkness of space, hidden construction began on weapons the galaxy had never seen. The Council had made a fatal mistake. They had taught humanity that mercy was weakness and that crying for help brought only mockery. Now they would learn a different lesson. They would learn what happened when you made an enemy of Earth. They would learn that humans didn't just fight to win. They fought to ensure their enemies never threatened them again. The war had begun. The Grand Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. War Marshal Krethik stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive dreadnought that could destroy planets. Around him, 2,000 warships spread across space like a mechanical storm. He had fought in wars before, but never had he commanded such power. Scan the system, he ordered. Find their defenses. The sensor officer worked his console. Then he paused. Worked it again. His expression changed from confidence to confusion. Marshal, you need to see this. The holographic display lit up. What it showed made Krethik's blood run cold. The Sol system wasn't just defended. It was a fortress. Every asteroid had been hollowed out and filled with weapons. Hidden platforms floated in the darkness, their energy signatures barely detectable until now. Earth's moon bristled with railgun batteries that could punch through any shield. Mars had transformed into a massive shipyard, surrounded by defensive stations. The asteroid belt itself glowed with the heat signatures of thousands of mines and automated defense systems. How? Krethik whispered. How did they do this in 3 months? His second officer stepped forward. Sir, they must have been planning this long before they went silent. This kind of construction would take years. Then they've been preparing for war while sitting in our council chambers. Krethik felt a cold respect for these humans. They had smiled and bowed while sharpening their knives. What about their fleet? We're detecting approximately 300 ships. Much smaller than our force, Krethik nodded. Then we still have the advantage. All ships, advance formation Delta. We'll punch through their defenses and bombard Earth from orbit. Show these humans what happens when they challenge the Council. The Armada moved forward. On Earth, in the command center of Bastion 1, Taiyang watched the enemy fleet advance. His orbital fortress hung above Earth like a metal moon, bristling with every weapon humanity could imagine. Around him, officers worked their stations with quiet efficiency. Range in 15 minutes, someone called out. Let them come closer, Taiyang said calmly. We want them deep in the system before we spring the trap. Admiral Yunji stood beside him. They're confident. Look at their formation. Arrogant. Good. Confidence makes people stupid. The Council fleet pushed deeper into the Sol system. They passed the first ring of asteroids without incident. Then the second. Krethik frowned. Where were the defenses? Where were the vaunted human weapons? Then everything activated at once. The asteroids lit up with weapons fire. Railguns launched projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Each projectile carried enough kinetic energy to tear through shields and armor like paper. The first volley took out 30 Council ships before they even knew they were under attack. Directed energy weapons followed. Lasers hot enough to cut through hulls. Particle beams that scattered across shields and overloaded them. Plasma cannons that melted metal. The darkness of space turned into a light show of death. Evasive maneuvers, Krethik shouted. Return fire. The Council ships tried to scatter, but they were in a kill box. Everywhere they turned, more weapons appeared. Hidden platforms decloaked and opened fire. Automated drones swarmed around capital ships, targeting engines and weapon systems. The asteroid belt itself seemed alive with hostility. Human ships appeared next. They didn't attack head-on like the Council expected. Instead, they darted in and out, hitting weak points and disappearing before return fire could land. They used the asteroids for cover, the defensive platforms for coordination. Every move seemed planned, practiced. They're using guerrilla tactics, Krethik realized. They're fighting like pirates, not a military. But these weren't pirates. These were humans who had studied every battle in their violent history. Humans who knew that sometimes the small and fast beat the large and slow. Humans who were fighting for their survival and their revenge. Captain Deho commanded one of the attack squadrons. His ship, Swift Vengeance, dove through the chaos with 6 others following. They targeted a council cruiser, their railguns hammering its shields until they collapsed. Then they poured fire into the exposed hull until the ship broke apart. Target destroyed, his weapons officer reported. Moving to next objective. Negative, Deho said. I see something better. He had spotted the council flagship, the massive dreadnought where Krethix commanded the battle. It was heavily shielded, surrounded by escorts. Attacking it directly would be suicide, but Deho didn't plan to attack it. Prep the boarding team, he ordered. We're going hunting. While the main battle raged, Swift Vengeance slipped through the chaos. Using the shadow drive technology, they became invisible to sensors. They drifted close to the flagship, matching its speed and trajectory. Then, at exactly the right moment, they fired magnetic grapples. The boarding team launched. 30 Special Forces soldiers in combat armor flew across the gap between ships. They landed on the flagship's hull and began cutting through. Inside the dreadnought, alarms blared. Krethix saw the breach alert and cursed. Security teams to Section 7. We're being boarded. But Deho's team moved fast. They fought through corridors, their weapons cutting down council soldiers who had never seen real combat. They reached the ship's computer core, and one of the soldiers, a woman named Nari, plugged in a data stick. Virus uploading, she reported. The council's computer systems tried to fight the intrusion, but Seojun had spent months studying their technology. He knew every weakness. The virus spread through the flagship's network like wildfire, then jumped to other ships through their communication links. In Bastion 1, Taeyang's tactical display suddenly filled with new information. He could see everything the council fleet saw. Every ship's status, every commander's orders, every tactical plan. We're in their network, he said with satisfaction. Now we own them. He began feeding false information to the council fleet. Phantom ships that didn't exist. Fake weapons platforms. Made-up threats. The council forces tried to respond to attacks that weren't real, leaving them vulnerable to attacks that were. The battle became a slaughter. Krethix watched his fleet disintegrate. 400 ships destroyed, 600 damaged, and the humans just kept coming, kept fighting, kept killing. He had never seen anything like it. These weren't just soldiers. These were warriors driven by rage and grief. Marshal, his officer said quietly, we need to retreat. Retreat? The word tasted like poison. The council has never retreated. Then the council has never faced humans before. Krethix looked at the display. His proud armada was bleeding ships with every passing minute. They had achieved nothing. Earth still stood untouched. The human defenses had barely been scratched. He made the hardest decision of his military career. All ships fall back. Retreat to the edge of the system. The council fleet turned and ran. The humans pursued them to the outer planets, harrying them every step of the way. By the time the survivors jumped to faster than light speed, the Grand Armada had lost nearly half its strength. In Bastion 1, Taeyang's crew cheered. They had won. Earth had defeated the largest military force in the galaxy, but Taeyang didn't cheer. He looked at Admiral Yunji. Phase 3? She nodded. Phase 3. If they won't come to negotiate, we bring the war to them. On screens across the command center, new orders appeared. Human fleets scattered throughout the system began preparing for departure. They weren't just defending anymore. Now they were hunting. Across council space, thousands of species watched broadcasts of the battle. The impossible had happened. The Grand Armada defeated. Earth victorious. The news spread like fire through dry grass. The council wasn't invincible. The council could bleed, and if Earth could make them bleed, maybe others could too. In the council chambers on Nexus Prime, Vexthor stared at reports of the disaster. Half the armada gone, the survivors broken and demoralized. And now intelligence suggested human fleets were leaving the Sol system, heading toward council space. What do we do? Sethrak asked, his voice trembling. Vexthor had no answer. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council faced an enemy they couldn't simply overwhelm. An enemy that fought with cunning and rage. An enemy that refused to submit. They had awakened something terrible, and now they would pay the price. 3 months passed and Earth went silent. Every human ship withdrew from Council trade routes. Every embassy closed. Every communication channel shut down. To the Galactic Council, it looked like humanity had finally accepted defeat. The humans had retreated to lick their wounds, just as Vexthor had predicted. The galaxy moved on, barely noticing Earth's absence. But beneath that silence, Earth was transforming. In the shipyards orbiting Mars, Dr. Seogen walked among machines that never stopped moving. Robotic arms assembled ships at a pace that would have seemed impossible just months ago. These weren't the bulky, slow vessels Earth had built before. These were predators, sleek, fast, deadly. How many? Admiral Yunji asked, standing beside him. We've completed 47 so far. By the end of next month, we'll have 200. Yunji nodded. And the special project? Seogen smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Come see for yourself. They took a shuttle to a hidden facility in the asteroid belt. Inside, scientists worked on technology that shouldn't exist. Captured Vraxian bioships. Their organic technology reverse-engineered and combined with human innovation. The result was something new. Something terrifying. We call it the shadow drive, Seogen explained. The Vraxians use organic matter to bend space around them. We've improved it. Our ships can now move through space without leaving any energy signature. To sensors, they simply don't exist. Invisible ships, Yunji breathed. Better, ghost ships. They can be right next to a council vessel and their sensors won't detect a thing. While Seogen built weapons, Yunji's teams had been busy elsewhere. Black operations specialists infiltrated council space, moving like shadows through their networks. They didn't just hack systems. They studied them, learned them, mapped every communication relay, every military depot, every weakness in the council's vast infrastructure. In her office on Earth, Yunji reviewed the intelligence. The council had grown complacent over centuries of peace. Their security was a joke. Their military relied on outdated tactics. They had forgotten how to fight because they hadn't needed to for so long. Humans, on the other hand, had never stopped fighting. Earth's history was written in blood and conflict. Every human child learned about wars and strategies, about tactics and survival. The council saw this as primitive. They were wrong. Begin Phase 1, Yunji ordered. The first strike happened on a Tuesday. A council military depot on Kethrin 4 exploded without warning. The blast was so powerful it vaporized everything within 10 kilometers. Council investigators arrived to find nothing but a crater. Their conclusion, equipment malfunction. These things happened, even with advanced technology. 3 days later, a treasury ship carrying valuable resources vanished between star systems. No distress call. No debris, just gone. The council launched a search but found nothing. Then a communication relay went dark. Then another. Then a research station. Over 6 weeks, 17 separate incidents occurred across council space. Each one seemed unrelated. Each one had a logical explanation. But together they formed a pattern. In the council chambers on Nexus Prime, emergency sessions began. Chancellor Vexthor paced his crystalline platform, his usual confidence shaken. This cannot be coincidence, Sethrak hissed. 17 incidents in 6 weeks? But we've found no evidence of attacks, another council member argued. No weapon signatures, no ships detected, nothing. How can we blame someone when we have no proof? A junior intelligence officer stood nervously. He was Krolith, his metallic body trembling slightly. Chancellor, I may have found something. Speak. I analyzed the timing of each incident. They correspond with detected movements in nearby systems. Small energy signatures easily dismissed as cosmic radiation or stellar activity. But if you map them, he projected a hologram. They all point back to one source. Where? Vexthor demanded. The Sol system, Earth. The chamber erupted in disbelief. Humans, impossible. They lacked the technology. They lacked the knowledge. They were barely capable of faster-than-light travel, let alone invisible warfare. But the evidence was there. Faint, almost undetectable. But there, before the council could act, every screen in the chamber flickered. Then Ambassador Mirai's face appeared. She looked different than she had 3 months ago. Harder, colder. Greetings, Council, she said. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. You're probably wondering what's been happening to your infrastructure. Allow me to explain. Those 17 incidents? That was us. Humanity, the primitive species you dismissed, the children you mocked. Vexthor's crystalline face darkened. You dare. We dare everything now, Mirai interrupted. You taught us that mercy is weakness, that asking for help gets you nothing but contempt. So we stopped asking. We took matters into our own hands. You've destroyed council property, Sethrak roared. This is an act of war. No, Mirai corrected. What you did to our colonies was an act of war. You made a deal with butchers and let 2 million of our people die. What we've done is merely a demonstration, a small taste of what we're capable of. Commander Taeyang appeared beside her on the screen. We've spent 3 months preparing, learning, building. You thought we went quiet because we were defeated. You were wrong. We went quiet because we were sharpening our knives. The council has thousands of ships, Vexthor said, trying to regain his composure. You have what? A few hundred at most? You cannot win this fight. We don't need to win, Taeyang replied. We just need to make you bleed. And we're very good at making people bleed. Dr. Seojin appeared on screen now too. Your ships are larger than ours. Your weapons have more range. Your shields are stronger. But you've built everything for show, for intimidation. We've built everything for killing. There's a difference. Admiral Yunji was the last to appear. We know where your depots are. We know your patrol routes. We know which systems are lightly defended and which ones you consider critical. We've been watching you for 3 months while you didn't even know we were there. We own your networks now. Your secrets are our secrets. Mirai's face filled the screen again. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stand down your fleets. You're going to provide reparations for the colonies you allowed to be destroyed. You're going to formally apologize to Earth and grant us full equal status in the Council. You have 72 hours to comply. And if we refuse, Vexthor asked, then you'll learn what happens when you make an enemy of Earth, and trust me, Chancellor, you don't want that lesson. The transmission ended. For a moment, the council chamber was silent. Then Vexthor exploded in rage. His crystalline body glowed bright red. How dare they? How dare these primitives threaten us? We will crush them. We will destroy their entire species. Sethrak nodded eagerly. Mobilize the Grand Armada. We'll turn their precious Earth into a dead rock floating in space. Orders went out across council space. Every military ship received the same command. Proceed to the Sol system. Destroy all human resistance. Make an example of Earth that would be remembered for 10,000 years. The Grand Armada assembled. Over 2,000 warships representing the combined military might of 47 civilizations. It was the largest fleet ever gathered. War Marshal Krethix, a battle-hardened veteran of a dozen conflicts, took command. He looked at the fleet and smiled. This would be easy. They had no idea what was waiting for them. On Earth, in the command center deep beneath Geneva, Taeyang watched the council fleet gather. He turned to his officers. They took the bait. Just as we predicted, Yunji smiled. Arrogance. It's a wonderful thing in an enemy. Seojin checked his instruments. All defense platforms are online. The trap is set. Mirai stood at the window looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Hyunwoo was buried in the ruins of New Seoul. Somewhere out there, Taeyang's sister and her children had their last moments of terror. The council thought this was about territory or resources. They were wrong. This was about making sure no one ever underestimated humanity again.